We're going to call this meeting to order. Be the May 18th meeting of the Cherokee Village. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody stand with me and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll recognize a moment of silence, please. Amen. Here we go. Yeah, I didn't want to forget that. Miss Clerk, when you're ready, roll call, please. Kind of rushing you a little bit, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I've been asked to ask by the public that when council speaks, to please speak into your mic and speak loudly so that they can hear you.
Okay.
Roll call. Rowland.
Here. Here.
Harrison.
Here.
Tatum.
Here.
Ishmael.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Mayor established.
Alrighty. I'll just go ahead and give my apologies out there. We've all been getting that coughing thing going on, and I'll try to stay out of it tonight. But everybody had a chance to look at the agenda for tonight. And
Mr. Mayor, is there any reason that the vacancy is at the end of the meeting?
no, we can do it as soon as I was going to actually do that just before we got into business. As soon as we get through all the reports and stuff, we're going to do it. Just to go ahead and get it over with.
Mr. Mayor, if I could add one item to the agenda for tonight.
Okay.
The ash flat overlay grant, or the flathead overhead.
I've actually got some information on that.
Okay. Would you rather hold
I guess
off?
we can, yeah, we need, I can go ahead. I talked to Mr. Clements and about the resolution, and he said that when they get ready, he'll send us a sample copy of the resolution. He said, we're not close to being ready. So he said,
Okay.
because I told him it might be June, and he said, that's fine, we're not close. He said, it'll probably be later in the year.
Well, save us some time tonight. We'll leave it off.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion. Second.
Mr. Ishmael makes a motion to approve the agenda, seconded by Mr. Thompson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, like signs?
Tatum's the one that seconded.
He seconded it.
Oh, did
The second came from Mr. Ishmael.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Motion passes. We have any public comments on the agenda? That's after it. Okay. Had a chance to read over the minutes from the last meeting.
I motion we approve. Second.
Mr. Smith makes a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting, seconded by Mr. Martin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passes. We actually had I have a correspondence here that just came in, but I was going to do it under the mayor's report, but I can do it under correspondence, or which one, the water company letter?
That's in, I think that's in your mayor's.
Yeah, I was going to do it in the mayor's report. Had time to look over the financial report from the last month?
I did have one question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
On the financial reports, there's a significant outlay, particularly as it relates to the roofing on for the fire department
Yes.
because of unforeseen costs and everything. I realize we realized those expenditures this year, but Was there not an approval of funds last year? I guess I'm a little confused as to the timing on that issue. If the chief could clarify that, that would be helpful.
You're talking about for the fire truck, right? The approval of the...
No, sir.
The roof, the roofing for the Bayside and Waukeeta stations.
Actual versus insurance and,
That was done last year.
so is that part of the overage that we're looking at? I know it was approved last year. So,
They actually didn't get to the roof. It was my understanding, Mr. Cowell can correct me if I'm wrong, the damages was last year. The insurance checks didn't come in until this year. The work actually didn't get done until the first of this year.
right.
So we didn't actually get billed for it.
The work was done before the end of the year. We did not, the way the insurance worked, typically what most homes do, they pay us a percentage up front, and then after the work's completed, they pay us the rest of it. You know, after the work's complete, you have to show proof that you had that work done, then they pay us the rest of it.
Right. So on page 5 of 15 in the financials, that 90,000 plus year-to-date actual in repair and maintenance of buildings, which a large portion of that is the Base Heart roof, if I'm correct.
I don't know what that's reflecting.
City Hall, isn't it? Yeah.
Also, this roof was done since the first
Yes.
year.
Yeah, this roof was done after the first of the year, which the insurance company going to get me pulling numbers. They reimbursed us $39,000.
No, I was able to get a little bit more money out of that, but that check just came in within the last 30 days.
Yeah, and it was
So that
50.
would be for...
The actual cost was $54,000 to get the roof
I'm
done.
just curious as to, you know, we see that repair and maintenance of buildings, we're basically, the variance is a negative 84,000. Is there an offset somewhere for the insurance proceeds?
That's a treasurer's question.
I'll get an answer for that.
Okay. It kind of stands out on the financials there, and, you know, I was just looking to see if there was an offset that might balance that overall. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
I think last year, the mayor at the time, we put that in the buildings and grounds when the insurance check. If I recall correctly, that's what we were doing. Because then we were planning to pay it out of there. That way we can keep it separate, but I'm not 100% on that. Like she said, it would be a treasurer's question.
Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions. I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got any more questions on the financials?
Make a motion to accept them.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Tatum to accept the financials, seconded by Mr. Ishmael. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Abstain.
I knew that was coming.
You're welcome.
You're really predictable.
Thank you.
So next is the mayor's report. I got a little bit going on. We got a few things going on in the last month. Excuse me. Myself and Mr. Thompson, with the assistance of Mr. Trey Steinmore, state representative for Cherokee Village, had a virtual Teams meeting with the Arkansas Department of Transportation about our low water bridge project here at the town center. We talked with Bruce Street, Jared Wiley, Mike Furity, and Brandon Love with the RDOT. I kind of regret to say it got pushed back a little bit more, but he said that that they're going to take bids in November, and they will do the project will start mid-summer. He said the holdup right now has been getting the utilities moved which the water company's good to go. It's the sewer line. They're having issues getting them nailed down. I had another conversation with him a few days later, Mr. Brandon Love, about if there was anything the city could do to help, if there was something we needed to do, somebody to contact. He said at this time their right-of-way engineers had it all handled, and if we did need anything from the city that he'd let us know. So, and I explained to him that this project's been going on for several years and it's been funded since 2016 and it keeps getting pushed back. So we kind of feel like the promises are being made that's not being fulfilled. But he did give me his word that the project is funded and it will be done. It just, they have to get everything, the utilities moved. And also again, myself and the street superintendent, Joey Sheets, rode around and had a conversation with Jonathan Clements and Brandon Love, again with the Arkansas Department of Transportation, about the street aid grant program that Mr. Smith was talking about. After the city clerk and I attended the municipal league meetings in January, we learned that Cherokee Village hadn't been utilizing the street aid program in a few years, so we went and applied for it, which we was lucky enough to get a $300,000 street aid grant from RDOT, which will effectively will pave about 1.3 miles of a city street. That's kind of crazy. 5 years ago, you could get a mile of city street done for $60,000, and now it's $300,000. Well, several streets was turned in. The one that was picked, it wasn't by me. I didn't have anything to do with picking it, but it was picked at random. Was Flathead, from about the Flathead Bridge for 1.3 miles. That was the bid that come in, the initial bid that's going to come in is actually going to be an overage of about $25,000 and change. And the highway department, RDOT grant is good for the $300,000, and the resolution that Mr. Smith was talking about that the city will have to pass if we're interested in the program and getting the grant is that we'll have to be responsible for anything over the $300,000. I made contact with him again the other day to ask him about if we could do some fine tuning and fine measurements to get it closer to $300,000, and he said that's all. He said that can be done. He said this is all just preliminary stuff, and he said that and I asked him about a sample resolution. He said that when it gets closer to time to do it, he'll send us a copy of what needs to be done. So we'll be looking forward to that here in the near future. And that's also another project that, because of how it works, it gets funded this year, and he said the project will be next year. He said so they'll fund it in November, the last quarter of this year, and the project to be a 2024 project. So well, I'm pretty proud and stoked that we was able to get that. That was a good thing. Let me look at where'd my letter go? I had it here a minute ago. But anyway, I as a personal person in the city, along with all water customers in the Cherokee Village Waterworks, received this letter from the Waterworks the other day. And we've had several calls at City Hall, and I talked to Miss Melody over at the Water Department. It's not changing any rate structures, is the way she told me. All it is merely changing the way they read the meters. Instead of reading per every 1,000 gallons, they're going to read per every 10 gallons. But I told her that I would encourage all customers, all citizens, if you have questions, feel free to call the Waterworks at any time. They're willing to answer, and they're good people, so just give them a call and they can explain it to you. I am happy to report the Senior Citizen Center has new lighting, and they are extremely happy. And they got, we had to put up some new emergency exit signs to meet code, but other than that, everything's good, and they're very happy. We're working on getting the flooring, to get the flooring leveled out. I told them we got to work it in stages. It's not going to happen overnight, but we'll work it in stages and get the flooring taken care of. The fire chief, along with the planning and zoning, Charlie Akers and Joey Sheets at the street department, have formed a, what we call it,
the safety team for our citywide health and safety.
Yeah. They are the heads of our safety team of the city Cherokee Village Health and Safety Plan that we had to implement to bring the city in compliance with the workers' compensation rule number 32. If people get on if you want to get on the adoptables of Cherokee Village, they got some good pictures of the progress that's been made on the Meow Manor. There's been some really good progress, so it's coming along. It looks really nice. I think, Mr. Monty, what are they? I think I seen metal on the sides, and I think a door. Perky Construction doing a really good job. And that's about all I had in the mayor's report. I know it's kind of long, but I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody. Got any questions on the department reports? We got the police chief and the fire chief here. If you got any questions for them.
I'd say it was a busy month looking at them.
It's been a very busy month. It's we're getting into the summer season. It's a lot more traffic on the road, a lot more stuff going on in town. Like I said tonight, if the music's still going on, I welcome anybody to go up here and listen to the free music on Thursday nights in the town center. I didn't know Miss Rowland, Mr. Smith, one of them want to do the eclipse report.
Create Bridges is a group here in Arkansas that helps us facilitate quite a bit in this area. They've held 3 meetings in this area to cover the eclipse and get us ready for it. The A&P itself has already held 4 meetings to get ready for this. We will be meeting once, if not twice a month from now until the end of the year, or until the eclipse actually happens. And I would like to keep this on business for council, in front of council, for the rest of this year, so we can keep it in front of us.
That'd be good. The conversation I had with Bruce Street at RDOT, RDOT is expecting like 1.5 million extra drivers on the road just that day. So it's like will be a shoulder to shoulder. So we need to plan. Thank you, Mr. Rob. Got any questions on any of the other departmental reports? Anything to add to it, Mr. Cal, Mr. Monty? Good. Well, now we can move into business and nobody has anything to add. And I want to throw a little bit of a monkey wrench in there. I'd like to go ahead and do the new business number 2, the council vacancy, seeing as how we only had one person, Miss Rachel.
Hello.
Thank
Any of
you.
y'all have questions for me?
Man, I got the questions if you want. What prompted you to move to, and how long have you lived in Cherokee Village?
I lived in Cherokee Village for 9 years. The crime rate in Paragould prompted me to get out of that area, and we had land already in Mammoth, and Cherokee Village just looked like a good place to have a home.
Have you been elected or appointed to a position, and if so, explain.
I have been appointed, I sit on a board, well, not for the Glencoe Fire Department, I sit on their board, and that was an appointment.
Okay. What do you view the responsibilities of a council member to be?
For the citizens' voices to be heard.
If appointed, do you and will you be able to commit the time that the council position will require?
Yes, I will.
Anybody got any other questions?
I do.
Yes, go ahead.
Being that if you got on council, you and your husband side by side, you know, living in the same home, what guarantee would there be on FOIA rules not being broken within the two of you?
We already have a similar situation. He is fire chief of Glencoe, and I sit on the board, and there are things that he cannot cannot be aware of that are being discussed in the board. So it would be the same with the council. There will be things, we just won't be able to discuss them outside of the council.
I got a statement or question. Do you, and it's nothing, this isn't personal, I would feel this, when I found out it was you doing this, I just asked myself, how would I feel about any of us having a spouse on the council? And there's a part of me that it doesn't sit right with, it doesn't have anything to do with you or your family or your intentions at all. Because we're appointing you and you're not elected by the citizens, it's more about, are we representing, is Ward 2 getting represented the best we can? And so I want to vocalize where I stand on that, and, because it's just a different situation, two spouses being on.
Can I speak?
Sure.
I am one that does not necessarily keep my mouth shut, and my husband does not control how I make decisions and what I do, just like I do not control him. There are things that I would have voted differently than he did, but we each are individual people. We don't control each other, and I'm not sure what else to say on that, but I stand my ground a lot. And I'm not gonna let him, push me into making a decision that I wouldn't normally make. I've never been like that.
Good.
Along with her statement, I have seen in other cities and in this city where spouses can be troubled being on council at the same time. I've seen it happen in Hardy. I've seen it happen here, not as alderman, but as a clerk and a mayor, as husband and wife, caused a little bit of problems at times. I'd have no problem with the general populace electing you, and I think that would be great. But you've never run for the office outside of an appointment, and that begs the question, why wasn't it important enough when the position was open then? So my history is that a husband and wife in the same political subdivision, I guess you would call it, has been more harmful than helpful for the citizens of their particular subdivision. So that's my thought on the subject.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I fortunately have been here long enough to have been present when both Mayor Maynard, Ray Maynard, and Susan Maynard, as Mr. Martin referred to, and the problems that he cited were some members of the public perception problems. There were never operational problems. I was very familiar with what was going on within the city. I was very familiar with what was going on with council. And there were never any operational problems presented by the former Mayor Maynard and former City Clerk Susan Maynard. In fact, both of them worked diligently beyond normal hours. Ray worked extensively on installation of equipment in police vehicles, very extensively on computer systems for the city. And so that went well in terms of, but he also volunteered his time in the early morning hours to go out and sit on snowplows in the city. So I think the city generally benefited from that. Our most recent mayor, your predecessor, his wife, Betty, both Russ and Betty devoted countless hours to the city, both through, and while, Betty wasn't in an elected position, certainly Mr. Martin raised issues in terms of her involvement with the animal shelter, and that has all proven to be very good. And I think that, that Mrs. Tatum ought to be offered the same consideration for that. And then lastly, the ward that would be represented by the Tatums is fairly low in population relative to the other wards. And so, there was the opportunity. I do find it interesting, while Mr. Martin is not related to anybody else on board, but he also started out as an appointment for a position on this council. In fact, the position that he now sits in, that was an appointment that was approved by the mayor and the council. And so I think that Mrs. Tatum ought to be offered the opportunity to serve, since she was the only one that stepped up, the only one that took time to properly fill out the paperwork and get the number of names. And I'm sorry, just for our reference, how many names? We were asking for a minimum of 10.
16.
So she submitted more than the minimum requirement. And she was the only citizen that stepped up for that. So I would say we need to honor that and proceed.
I do.
Just to correct you, Mr. Thompson, I was elected to this position.
Originally,
the
but not the
election.
current.
And then before that, I was elected to the position twice.
Understood.
So I ran for office. So that was my point.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I agree with Heather. This is nothing personal. I think we would not be responsible council members if we didn't bring these things up. I know everyone on this council, this is a first-time occurrence. I know, just me speaking personally, I would never want my husband on city council with me. Some of the concerns that I thought about thinking about this, and their thoughts, keep that in mind. This is not any kind of attack. This is not, you should not serve, nothing
I
like that.
already figured this question would come up because it was the whole reason why I waited till the last minute to decide to run. I waited till a week before the deadline, and then I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this because I knew that that would be a big concern. And even not just for the city council, but for the citizens too.
And that's what we're supposed to do when we sit up here, and for the citizens, there's got to be a little bit of concern of, like I said, FOIA. There's got to be a little bit of concern about, because it does kind of create a double power sitting here on representation. And transparency may come into question. And so I definitely do not want you to think anyone up here is attacking you. We should discuss these things. This is what we're here for. So I know I had some concerns, and I know that there's a couple of citizens that have concerns. So
and the
it's vehicles.
citizens in my ward were the ones that encouraged me to run.
That is excellent.
That was the biggest, that's why it was a last minute thing, because I was like, no, because there's going to be a lot of questions, but it's the people in my ward wanted me to run.
And I will say, the open invitation was out there for 2 weeks.
2 months.
No, it was 2 weeks. The open invitation was open for 2 weeks. There was 3 people was all that come down to City Hall to get the packages. Miss Rachel was the only one that turned one back in. So, you're... Oh, Mr. Martin?
Yes, sir.
So I can write this down, and not to, I want to check up on you, but who in Hardy was related that was on the city council?
The names are out of my mind, but it was the people that owned the pottery shop. Dale Maddox and...
Yes.
Yes.
They served in 2 different wards, yes.
No, they served same ward, yeah. One was appointed and the other one was elected.
Okay.
And then the second time, they were both elected.
Mhm.
And like I said, during an election, I think it's great that people do that. But during an appointment, I'm scared during an appointment. I don't know.
Well,
But as far as elections concerned, I think if they take the time to run and go through all that, then God bless you. Yes, you should be up here.
Well, my concern is not one person on this council's asked me how I felt about it.
How do you feel about it?
Does it matter now?
Yeah.
There you go.
It does.
Actually, I would like to know, so yes.
I have no issue with it. We're, like I said, I'm fire chief and she is on the county, on the board there, and there's a lot of times she has to stick her foot in my butt on there. You know, don't do everything right. We don't agree on everything. Politically, we don't agree on everything. I think she'd be a good addition to this council. And I would like to see another woman up here, truthfully.
I don't know how everybody feels about that.
I mean, actually, and also I do have a legal opinion from John Wilkerson from the Arkansas Municipal League on this.
Okay.
It says there is no state law prohibiting two people who are married or related from serving on the council together.
Correct.
I mean, it goes on to state, I mean, as long as they're not, let me see, I'll just go ahead and read the whole thing. It said Arkansas state law states that no public servant shall use or attempt to use his or her official position to secure special privileges or exemptions for himself or herself, or his or her spouse, child, parents, or other person standing in the first degree of relationship, or for those whom he or she has a substantial financial relationship that are not available to others except as otherwise provided by law. Arkansas Code annotated 21-8-304A. So
Another statement.
it says all it says is a council member who is currently sits on the council would likely need to recuse himself.
Question, does it give any details about the recusing oneself? Like, that was one of my other questions. Is there anything that would be put before council to where one or the other would need to recuse themselves?
Not when they're
Only
on
if you're
council.
personally gaining.
Gotcha.
Like if
cannot
you're trying to
vote.
vote, pay for
I cannot
yourself.
vote for her appointment or not. I have to abstain.
Yes, he has to abstain from the appointment, or if we was decide that we're going to pay the council members, $1, he wouldn't be able to vote to give her $1,
And I
or
have to
she
say,
him.
she worked her butt off for this one. I did not pull any strings, did not pull any favors, anything to help her. She went out and beat on doors in the heat, talking to people to get the signatures, filling out the paperwork, writing
So-
everything. This had nothing to do with me.
Well, I just want to say for the record, it's not about the integrity of you. It's a first,
Yeah.
and it's what me as my own person, my own woman. I paused. I paused because of a spouse team up here, and I would think that of any person up here. And I'm the same as you. I've been talked to about this by about three or four different people, and so I think it only right to just say it out loud and get the elephant talked about. And if everybody's okay with it, then everybody's okay with it. But that conversation just would have been had if it was any other spouse up there. I just want you to know that.
Oh, yeah, I second that, yeah.
Like I'll say again, I mean, everybody had ample opportunity just like anybody else, and she is the only one that fulfilled the qualifications that we put forth. So, I mean, I'm ready to move to a vote. I mean, it's.
So do you need anything, a motion to bring this to a vote?
Mr. John?
Yeah, somebody has to nominate her and
Yeah.
bring it up for a vote.
I would nominate her then.
Mayor, question, are we doing this one different than we normally do?
As in,
Normally, we go into executive session.
Well, there's only
I think-
one person, so there's
I mean,
really
there's
no
only
reason
one
to go
person, but
executive
That's
session.
all I'm checking on is procedure wise.
I mean, there's only one person.
That's
mean, if you-
fine, I was just asking,
Okay.
not trying to question anything, just,
No, I'm just,
Yeah.
I mean, if you feel like
you
something
feel like
would
we need
be
to.
discussed in executive session that would not be discussed here, but generally speaking, we go in, at least my time of when Peter was appointed, when, we've made other appointments, there were multiple candidates, and so we discussed that and then came to a decision and then, brought that decision back in front. But if
Like
you
I
feel,
said,
if
no.
you'd like to have some additional conversation in executive,
I didn't know if
Session.
any council members needed to, that's why I was just asking.
Yeah. No, I fully understand. I mean, that's,
So where are we at with the question at the moment?
I nominated Ms.
I'll second.
Mr. Thompson makes a motion to nominate Miss Tatum, and seconded by Mr. Martin. Roll call vote.
Roland,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Ishmael,
Yes.
Me too.
Thompson,
Yes.
Excuse me.
Smith,
No.
Martin,
Yes.
five yeses and one no,
One abstain.
And one abstain.
and one abstain.
Is it good to go, Mr. John?
That makes the form.
All right.
Swear her in.
Well, can do.
Get her up there.
All righty. You want to, hold on a minute. Raise your right hand. And you repeat after me. I, say your name,
I, Rachel Tatum,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution
do solemnly swear to support the Constitution
of the State of Arkansas,
of the State of Arkansas,
uphold the ordinances
uphold the ordinances
of the City of Cherokee Village,
of the City of Cherokee Village,
and faithfully discharge
and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of council member,
of council member,
to which I have been
to which I have been
duly appointed.
duly appointed.
All right. We'll get this all signed and stamped. You realize what you got into, right?
We're not
Okay,
paying
eyes wide open.
I do want to say that if anybody has any questions down the road that you feel like something's off, please come talk to me, come ask me. I will openly talk about anything y'all need to talk about.
Already.
Come have a seat, you're not going back there.
Yep, grab your chair.
Yeah, you're in the room now. We've got one back here.
They're not having public comments right now.
I'm not making comments.
What do you
I
do?
just wanted the board to recognize that we lost two very important people in our community this past 2 weeks. Those people are gone. Anita, honey, they've done so much for this community in the way of making it beautiful. And I think because they are no longer with us, we should recognize them at this time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Yep. Yeah, she's a good lady. Now, since we got out of order, I apologize for that. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Yeah, we can go into old business number 1. Mr. Thompson, do you have an update on the phone system committee?
At this point, no, and I'll apologize to council. Combination of personal issues. We have a grandson graduating and trying to navigate towards college, and Mr. Covington, who's also on the committee, likewise, a daughter graduating from college, and the time commitment. So we haven't had the opportunity to adequately explore some of the issues with the phone system. The concern being the cost that came back from the vendors, and we're really trying to find out Mr. Covington did express that perhaps the vendor didn't understand the structure of the system that the city is requesting.
Okay.
So
I was hoping there was some misunderstanding in there when they said what the bids was.
So I believe it's warranting a pause, if you would, to see if we can make a prudent decision, on, I realize the system needs to be updated, but I do believe, having listened to Mr. Covington's concerns, that there is quite possibly, don't mean to play on words, but a bit of a miscommunication, and so we need to clarify that.
Okay.
Mr. Thompson, can I make a request? You did such a beautiful presentation of the finances when you made them last time. Can you give us
Please
a
speak
brief,
up.
could you give us a brief little outline before the next meeting like you did with the finances? Just letting us know on other than just saying phone system.
Well,
You did a wonderful job last time. I was wondering if you could just give us a little outline the next time you do it.
And I can appreciate it, Mr. Martin. I didn't know I was on the agenda for this evening until the working meeting. And so actually, I've had all of a couple of days to confer with Mr. Covington. So I do recognize that.
Thank you.
Item number 2 under old business was the change of council meeting date and time. At the working meeting, we discussed at this time we would remain with the same date, the third Thursday of the month. But we're in the July meeting, I'll just go ahead and get this out of here. In the July meeting, which would be the July 20th meeting, we voted to move the time back to 6 p.m.
Well,
So
that
starting
was
in
a
June.
working meeting, so the vote doesn't have any weight until this council votes on it. So,
If you hold your horses just a minute, I was going to ask for a motion. You're getting your cart in front of the horse. So we discussed about moving it back to 6 p.m. That'd be, hopefully give everybody enough time to get in and get out before it gets too late. And maybe we can go to a restaurant or something. So
or
if we
can we
want
start
to,
having pizza here?
yeah, if we want to move forward with that, I need a motion as such.
A motion that we move our city council meetings as of July to 6 o'clock.
A second.
Is that Ms. Heather? Motion made by Mr. Smith to move the council meetings back to 6 p.m., set the council meeting time at 6 p.m., starting at the July council meeting, seconded by Mrs. Harrison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like signs. Motion passes. Item number 3 is the trash ordinance, Ms. Pamela.
I talked to Penny before, and she is still working on the kinks that we have to go through to get that finished. So I would just say probably table it until the next council meeting.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and, we need a vote on that? No, we'll just, Miss Penny, we'll just put it on the next month's. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. We're still trying to get things together to get the ordinance worded.
I talked to John beforehand. The situation is that we have one ordinance that has 2 subjects on it.
Yes.
That those ordinances need to be broke apart and
Yeah.
separated. And that's where I definitely need his appointment from, so
Okay.
that's what we're working on.
Alrighty. Item number 4 under old business was the update on the senior citizens. I think I touched on that already. They got their lightings, and if anybody gets a chance to go over there, it's really nice. It's a lot brighter. Matter of fact, me and Miss Penny made the joke that we was going to buy some dollar store sunglasses because they was saying it was so bright, but they're really good, and we're still working on the flooring, trying to get it worked out so we can get it done.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
may I make a motion that if we're on new business now,
New business number 1.
yes, that we approve the resolution, do I have to waive the rules and approve the resolution by title only? That's my motion.
It's a resolution, it's not.
Just a single vote?
Yeah, it's
Okay, then I make a motion that we approve the resolution.
Okay.
A second.
Mr. Martin makes the motion to approve resolution number 2023-08, seconded by Mr. Smith, which for the people in the audience is a resolution. It's a resolution for the fire chief to be able to liquidate a boat that they do not use at this current time. That's it's not doing us any good, we're gonna liquidate it, and he's gonna, use the money to buy a piece of equipment we are going to be able to use. So, would that be a voice vote, John, or?
No, you need a roll call.
Yep, roll call
Mr. Mayor,
vote.
question,
Yes.
should we put in here that he can use the money to buy the new boat, or that's going to have to come back up for council?
No, it said that he was gonna be able to buy a new piece of equipment.
Yeah, it's in the resolution, I believe.
I don't see it. It's not in
No, this
there.
resolution is just to put it on the.
Yes,
So let him do it.
so, yeah, it's a resolution to let him do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the,
But we're
Yes.
saying that the money goes into his budget, correct? So if the money goes into his budget, he can spend it, correct?
yeah, he'll be able to get it,
Right.
to have an addendum put on his budget to purchase the boat motor.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that everything was taken care of, and he had to come back before council to get approval. So,
Roll call vote, Ms. Clerk.
Okay, I have a question. Does Rachel vote on this? Okay.
And I probably should explain that a little better, I'm sorry.
Harrison,
Yes.
Jeff Tatum,
yes.
Rachel Tatum,
Yes.
Ishmael,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay. Just a little bit of, just to let the people know, one of my pages I like to look at, I've had them add in here, that we look at is the sales tax report. And I'm continue to be happy to report that the sales tax numbers are keep looking up every month. So, does anybody have any business before we go to the,
I do.
okay, Mr. Thompson?
Oversight completely on my part, and I apologize. I should have requested to be placed on the agenda for a permit for the Kiwanis Pancake Breakfast. I was reminded of that, and that is coming up on the 27th of this month. And so I would have to ask the council to perhaps give me a little bit of latitude if we could add it to the agenda to obtain a permit for the annual Kiwanis Pancake Breakfast.
I second that motion,
Yeah. So,
because they've been doing it every year.
Yeah.
so.
yeah, motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Martin to
Allow them to get.
to allow the
permits.
special use permit for the Kiwanis Pancake Breakfast, which will happen on,
May 27th.
here at the City Hall. May 27th, they start at 7 a.m.
Yes,
and
sir.
serve till 11 a.m. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like signs. Motion passes. Do we need an executive session?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
we just need Mr. Thompson to stop in and fill out the paperwork and make sure his insurance is filed, and
Yep, we're good to
we'll
go.
get you the paperwork this
Yep.
time.
Get the paperwork, we're good to go. Alrighty, on the comments, I have a Mr. Nathan Birdsell. Can you state your name and your address for the record, please?
You want my business address or my home address?
As long as it's in Cherokee.
Yeah, I was just,
My name's Nathan Birdsell. My address is number 30 Warpath Drive, Cherokee Village, Arkansas. Can I go ahead?
yes, go ahead.
Let a few people know, I've been here 41 years, moved here in, actually 42 years, 1981. I've either had 3 homes in Cherokee. I do not currently have one. Working on acquiring another lot to build a home possibly. At this time, I own Don't Be Dock Service at the top of the hill. That's 30 Warpath Drive, right across from the marina. We've been there 2 years and 3 months. However, I've been building full-time for over 5 years. For the last 10 years, I've had an Arkansas State Contractor's license. I've also had a city license in Cherokee Village, Horseshoe Bend, Ash Flat, all the surrounding cities, done a variety of different works. But primarily the last 2 years, all I've done is build lake docks. My issue at this time is a steel dock that we built and were issued a permit for through City Hall, and also approved and signed for through Suburban Improvement District on 3/15 of this year. On the attempt to install this, 3 weeks later, we were detained at the launch because of the metal on this dock not being galvanized. Now, I realize y'all aren't in the business, but a lot of people don't like galvanized docks. They tend to have kind of a utilitarian look to them. So we went to our local paint guy, and there's actually marine-based paint. It's guaranteed for 40 years underwater, and there's about 100 different colors that you can match your house, brickwork, anything else, your boat. So we put in about 8 of those docks on Thunderbird Lake. Anyway, so 3 weeks after obtaining this permit, which was paid for, we were detained at the launch by the city inspector saying, no, it has to be galvanized. You can't put it in. So we took it out, went back. After looking all over through multimedia everywhere, there is no law in the country that says that anything on water has to be galvanized. I've called the Army Corps of Engineers, Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, and if you call one, they'll refer you to the other. And that's what they did. Finally, Army Corps of Engineers said you need to talk with ADEQ, which was equivalent to the EPA for Arkansas, and all they care about is chemicals that you put in water, which actually galvanization is a chemical process. It actually has more chemicals in it than does marine paint. My question is, why do I have a permit that I went through all the proper channels to use, and I've been denied being able to use it? And I also, as a note, on Monday, which was, whatever day, 5/15, there was a bylaw passed by Suburban Improvement District at their meeting stating that no more docks can be put in that aren't galvanized. That's fine. I have no qualms with that. But I have invested, I have over $20,000 invested in materials, labor, time, and permits in order to install this customer's dock. And I'm not being allowed to do it. I'd like to know why.
Mr. Martin?
To the best of my knowledge about this whole fiasco, and I've heard it from a couple different sides, the city physically doesn't have a law stating that, but in, I believe, National Building Code, if you have metal underwater, it's supposed to be galvanized, but your metal is actually above on top of your floats. And there was a great question there, and I believe, I'm not going to talk for the inspector, but I believe that was the question that arose at the time. And he didn't know the answer to one part of it says you can't have galvanized underwater, but the other part says that you can have you can't have metal underwater, but the other part said that you can have it above water, which in your case, I believe it's above water. So I think there was a little boondoggle that happened. And then you have SID wanting to assert what people can put on the lake.
Absolutely.
So
there's no issue with that.
Have you looked at the National Building Code?
I've looked through every building code that there is.
Okay.
The only thing that I could find was in southern Florida along the outside. I guess that would be the...
This would have been 2015.
Yeah, the Atlantic side. There was one thing that was mentioned about anything that happened to be built in that area needed to be.
And I think that's where the confusion arose from. But I don't think we would be the people to fix that.
Mr. Birdsell?
Have we adopted that building code?
2015, we adopted a long time ago. Yeah.
So I've got
city did.
some additional questions, but I'll yield to you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I was just going to say, if you'll leave me your number, I'll get with you tomorrow if it's a good time.
Yeah,
And we can figure it out. I'll get with Mr. Charlie and see what the deal is
Okay,
and see what's going on.
that's fine.
I've got a couple of comments here. Number one, SID has never dictated the structure of the dock. They've only dictated historically the distance from the shoreline. And when I built my dock, it was 24 feet. And then it was adjusted outward to either 30 or 32.
32, yes.
And so there is some movement within SID to exert additional influence on dock building. and placement. But I would say this, and maybe Mr. Abel might be willing to offer up some opinion on it, but if we as a city precluded the placement of this dock prior to the change that SID made, then your dock ought to be grandfathered, because we were the ones that caused the delay in the placement of the dock. Also, I think that it's high time that the city requested that SID better get it clear about who's got jurisdiction of what, because the latest thing I heard that SID was attempting to assert, I haven't attended the meetings, it was just conveyed to me by a couple of citizens, was that at least one of the commissioners was asserting ownership of the shoreline. And if they want to start down that path and open up that can of worms about abandonment of property and, property rights and everything else, because if you go through the plats that are there surrounding all the lakes, most of the pins, I know my pins on my property are actually outside my seawall. They're underwater because of erosion that occurred. And SID better walk very carefully. They've got enough controversy going on in this community without opening that can of worms. But if they want to sit there and assert ownership, they're going down a path similar to the Corps of Engineers, trying to control the shoreline. And they better back up, because I've been contacted by several citizens within the community that they will instigate litigation if they try to assert ownership of the shoreline. So they need to get through and work through that process. But were you provided anything from the city inspector as to specific city code or state code reference when he was precluding you from delivering that or launching that dock?
When you turned your permit in, did you say it's going to be painted?
Yes.
I guess my question is, we've always assumed that SID is in charge of the lakes, so why are we involved with anything on the lakes? If SID's in charge of them, this is...
Well, currently you have to have a permit from the city, so I have to go get an approval from them.
That's my opinion.
And the docks are attached to the shoreline, which the city is in control of the shoreline until somebody, a judge, tells the city differently, but not SID.
I just think we're over-regulating. There's no sense in that. We got so many regulations that don't make sense, and that's one of them right there.
And we ought to be looking at docks that are in disrepair, not new construction, quite frankly. But I'm sorry, I'm getting off on personal comments, but
Well,
one, we owe this contractor, this homeowner, a timely response. And it has to be founded in law, not in interpretation.
Not to cut in, but I guess I am cutting in. The only thing that I heard from the city inspector was, find out where it says it's not a law. That was, quote, exactly what was said. Show me where it says it's not a law.
What's not how?
And you weren't given any
That's not
kind
how it
of
works.
piece of paper, nothing? Just told you cannot put that in water.
It's illegal to speed. It's not illegal to go the speed limit.
like I said, get with me.
Okay.
Get with me about mid-morning, 10-ish, 11-ish. Give me a call. We'll get together.
Okay. Thank you all.
Mr. Mayor, I would appreciate if the council give an apology to the people. If they're found that we're in wrong here, I would appreciate if we give the people who are
We'll
on the
get.
dock apology.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Get to the bottom of it. There being no more business to come before the city, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Martin moves to adjourn, seconded by Thompson. All in favor say aye.